Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield myself as much time as I consume, or as I may consume. Tonight, I rise with my Democratic colleagues, frankly, to call out dangerous and draconian anti-science agendas of this current administration. Since day one, this administration has unleashed chaos on our national scientific enterprise, undermining our competitiveness, undermining health safety, the dignity of research and how it is conducted, and it is coming at a time that will frankly move our country in the wrong direction, and it will cost us. In just over 100 days, we have seen the firing and rehiring and firing of experts, illegally impounded, congressionally authorized and appropriated research funding, jeopardizing the future of our STEM student pipeline, and frankly, an entire chilling effect has been created across our scientific research enterprise. And for the science enthusiasts watching at home, allow me to clarify that, yes, we support our national scientific research enterprise, our National Science Foundation, our National Institute of Standards and Technology, and in this country, we also have a National Institute of Health. And some of us are old enough to remember when we passed a DARPA for health research, ARPA-H, Advanced Research Projects in Health. And while much of my remarks will be dedicated towards our hard-nosed scientific research funding, I do want to make mention of what it means to have our health sciences under attack right now as well. Because doctors and researchers, particularly in the medical fields, are feeling extraordinary pain. These aren't just talking points. This isn't just fear-mongering. This is the cessation of scientific research, health research, special projects dedicated towards combating cancer. Pilot projects being halted just in the middle of their ongoing. And it is a blow to patients, it is a blow to medical researchers and physicians. And so my colleagues tonight are going to join me in speaking about the anti-science agenda that is under full swing in the United States of America and what it means. And tonight I'm going to speak about Michigan. I'm going to speak about the harm of this chaos and the anti-science agenda that it poses to the incredible state of Michigan. The state of Michigan, known for its manufacturing prowess, and yes, we have great healthcare institutions as well, but we are known as the place that has put the world on wheels for our best-in-class workforce, and of course, for the beauty of our Great Lakes. We are known as a place that has the most number of FIRST robotics teams in the nation, that we are a hotbed and a place that people come to, businesses come to expand, to grow, and to tap into our engineering talent. And you can't have a shop floor without research and development. You can't have the incredible manufacturing and the incredible innovation without the scientific research and development. It is about problem solving. And I know this from my time in the Obama administration. I know this from my time working in a scientific research lab, that innovation takes place on the shop floor and in the heart of Michigan's manufacturing capabilities. And we're so proud of public-private partnerships. We're so proud of how the government can provide seed funding through the National Science Foundation, support for our National Institute of Standards and Technology through the Manufacturing Extension Partnership Program, and yes, my friend Mike Coast, the former leader of the Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center, Michigan's MEP, and I are overdue for a conversation because he is ringing the alarm bell about what these cuts will do for Michigan and what this means. And so I saw and know this story also from my growing up and from my upbringing, and what it means to have a strong and vibrant manufacturing economy that it is intertwined with the nation's scientific research enterprise and appropriated dollars. I have visited, my friends, over 250 unique small businesses, small manufacturers, innovators, entrepreneurs, training centers, and the innovation story is powered by Michigan's incredible workforce, our hardworking men and women, those large concentrations of engineers that we have from Grand Rapids to Flint to Saginaw, Lansing, and of course all over southeast Michigan, from Detroit to Macomb County and throughout Oakland County. All of this goes hand in hand, from the lab to the shop floor to the classroom to the tinkering in your garage or in Michigan, because we do have those cold winters in your basement. People are innovating, and they are designing, and they are doing. And to see a headline like I have right here before me that I woke up to on a Saturday morning, that the National Science Foundation is canceling more than 400 STEM grants. What does that mean for Michigan? What does that mean for our schools that are not fully funded? What does it mean when we are competing on the world playing field? We need to have these scientists. We need to have these technologists. We need to have the engineers and the mathematicians. The student pipeline is absolutely essential, Mr. Speaker. And because of this Trump-Musk anti-science agenda undermining the symbiotic relationship and threatening Michigan's future in advanced manufacturing, environmental protection, and next-generation mobility technologies. Newsflash, we had 40-plus new factories being built and developing in Michigan just last year alone. The chaos continues to set us back. These aren't false threats. They're now our realities. It's blow after blow, and it's self-inflicted chaos at a time when we don't need it, when it's not going to work for Michigan, and it is not going to work for this country. My friends, Michigan is a national leader in public university research, with 9 public institutions in the great state of Michigan ranked as top-tier research university, what we call R1 research university, and we have also R2 universities, all ranked in that top 9. This is also including Oakland University, which is located in my district and where my parents met, and is part of my origin story. And they have a very robust engineering department that relies on these National Science Foundation grants, basic scientific research, technology readiness 1 through 9. What does that mean? We need to have basic scientific research. We need to have the scientific method, of course, dictating and governing how we conduct research in the United States of America. We have University of Michigan, Michigan State University, that recently just came forward with what it would mean to see these grants and the relationship between our universities and our government shrink. And in fact, that was also, I hold this up in the Detroit News, that the MSU president has spoken about the partnership between research universities and government-driven innovation. We need these things. Wayne State University, same thing. Michigan Technological University, same thing. They conduct over 90% of the state's academic research, totaling more than $3 billion. We want to compete. We want to be a driver of the moonshot of this century. And so every day, Michiganders reap the benefits of these universities, these small businesses, the entrepreneurs, the small business innovation research grants. I walk out my door and people are practically coming up to me saying that this is where they want to grow and go. And the STEM talent that is so Michigan critical to all of us. And so the economic impact of just the three largest research institutions of nearly $24 billion to the state of Michigan. This is personal for us, and this is very real. Where tomorrow's breakthroughs are going to begin, breakthroughs that our automakers are going to rely on, breakthroughs to compete in the global marketplace, and also to win on the battlefield. We are in a race for technological and, frankly, innovation dominance. And these cuts that have come through from the stroke of a pen in an Oval Office have sincere and grave and real results that are harmful. And as a lawmaker, I choose to use my time, yes, to continue to craft the legislation that I'm so proud to see making its way through the Science Committee on quantum, on reauthorizing NSF and NIST. And we hope that colleagues will join us and pass those bills. But today, we use our voices to call out the harms of an anti-science agenda, the setbacks it means for equity, the setbacks it means for disadvantaged students, for women, and for students of color, what this means for our manufacturers who rely on the diversity of a fully educated, skilled, and trained workforce, something that I see happening every single day in my incredible home state. And it's that grit that Michiganders bring to everything that I know will get us through. And it's with tremendous honor, Mr. Speaker, that I sit and stand with my colleagues tonight as we speak out. And I would like to, at this time, yield to my incredible colleague from the Commonwealth of Virginia for as much time as he may consume for tonight's special hour. And thank you so much, sir, for leading with me tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Congresswoman Stevens, and all the members here today to stand up for science and innovation. This is a matter of profound significance for many Americans. It's a matter of life or death, whether they realize it or not, because it is the responsibility of this body to be stewards of our country's future and leave this country better than how we found it. And that means recognizing the pivotal role of science and innovation, and both the people as well as the funding, and how it plays a role in making our country great now and in the future. And standing up for science is more important than ever right now, because the reality is this administration has declared a war on science. DOGE, funding cuts, firing contractors, firing scientists and innovators, trying to chase others out. For decades, America has been a leader in science and innovation, but this leadership is not our country's birthright. It has been earned over the years through an unwavering commitment to science and innovation. And make no mistake, our adversaries are watching closely at the work that we're doing and everything that's happening right now. And they want to undermine and replace our leadership in science and innovation. And we are at risk of being outrun on AI, quantum, and so many other critical technologies and innovations. And instead of helping us maintain our global leadership, this administration is slashing funding to our science agencies and firing federal scientists. The president is proposing $4.9 billion cut to the National Science Foundation. And on top of that, over $1 billion in grant funding. This administration has already terminated that. And at least $100 million in grant funding was cut from universities just in my state of Virginia alone. Investments in science and innovation have fueled our economy and started entire industries, given us healthcare breakthroughs, fortified our national defense, reinforced our leadership in the world. And make no mistakes, these firings and cuts to science and innovation will hurt every single American. They will make us less safe, less healthy, and less prosperous. Now, I have the honor of representing Northern Virginia, one of the most scientifically advanced communities in the country. And many of the folks who have been cut or fired or who've seen their funding go away are subject to these cuts. And they've seen harassment and intimidation and firings. And they are losing the ability to help Americans stay safe and stay healthy. And what's happening is there's a brain drain of science and technology innovators in our country because of these cuts. One of my constituents is a graduate student in astrophysics. She's pretty smart, and their research funding is at risk of being cut right now. And folks like her are wondering, should I stay in the science field? These cuts are destroying our nation's pipeline of scientists, technologists, and innovators. A teacher from my district has been dismayed that the president plans to cut the NASA budget by 24%. This will end educational programs that get students excited about scientists. We want to go to Mars. Who's going to take us there? It's going to be the ingenuity and the expertise of the American people. And the cuts are not just limited to NASA and the National Science Foundation. They're cutting healthcare research as well. A woman in my district said that her son has a disease for which NIH was researching a cure. Well, recent cuts, you can kiss that cure goodbye right now, or any hope of her son getting that. Because right now, there's so many cuts that we are not solving the problems in healthcare that we need to keep our country healthy. There's another person, her son had congenital blindness, and NIH was searching for a cure to that. That funding is on the chopping block as well as the people who are doing that research. Another biomedical researcher in the district said it perfectly, quote, the NIH, the FDA, and CDC and NSF are making discoveries now that will be the foundation for solutions needed in the years and decades ahead. Well, we won't even know what we missed with some of these cuts, and we won't know what innovations we could have made but for these cuts. I want to end by saying that I'm pretty sure these firings and cuts to science and research aren't really about waste, fraud, and abuse or government efficiency, because if they were, and if this administration actually cared about efficiency, they'd know that funding to science and technology and innovation doubles or triples the investment back in economic activity, not to mention all the lives and research that are saved and all the people who are kept healthy and safe by this research. This does not have to be partisan. This does not have to be controversial in any way. I want to call on all my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to stand up for science, research, and innovation, because standing up for science means standing up for the health, safety, and prosperity of every American. I yield back.
Well, great. Thank you, Mr. Supermum, a freshman new member to the Science Committee and to this very body. And as we can tell, he is already leading in an extraordinary way. And now we have another gentleman who is well past his freshman term, but also from the Commonwealth of Virginia, Mr. Beyer, who I would like to yield to.
Thank you very much. Thank you for putting this together, Ms. Stevens. I really appreciate it. And Mr. Speaker, thank you. I rise today in strong opposition to the Trump administration's attack on our scientific workforce and on science, specifically at the National Science Foundation, located a few blocks from my home. Today, my colleagues and I introduced a resolution commemorating the 75th anniversary of the National Science Foundation. We should be enormously proud to support the work of the NSF. Since 1950, the National Science Foundation has helped the U.S. lead the world in science. It supported the research and key investments that helped catalyze the internet, advanced technology for MRI machines, for 3D printing, for artificial intelligence. It created American Sign Language, detected gravitational waves, that developed LASIK eye surgery, and much, much more. It's been a cornerstone of our scientific education in the United States, providing support from elementary and pre-kindergarten right through the PhD level. NSF's prestigious awards draw researchers from across the world to come to the United States to do the work to study, and best for us, often to stay. The same incredible talent is under attack by this president, who is not only recklessly removing our best scientists from the federal workforce, but also defunding science and the scientific research at our nation's premier institutions. These are exactly the people who create our America's future. In a skinny budget request, the president proposed a $5 billion cut to the National Science Foundation, including $1 billion in STEM education and workforce programs. If that budget request is enacted by Congress, this will be a death knell for our innovation economy and for America's future. I've already been alarmed by the workforce cuts the Trump administration has made in past months. We're losing our best and our brightest. Some might find jobs in the private sector, but many are likely to be poached by other countries. We hear again and again that many countries are trying to recruit our best and brightest. And I personally, because the cuts have heavily impacted my home, I've had hundreds of constituents, thousands, fired or coerced out of the federal workforce by the toxic environment that DOES is intentionally creating. These are professionals who've dedicated their talent and their lives, their scientific expertise, to make sure that the National Science Foundation is advancing the most cutting-edge, innovative research proposals. Mr. Speaker, the last thing we should be doing is losing that talent. I'm also deeply alarmed at the canceled grants and funding at NSF and our other scientific agencies. The Trump administration has cut more than $1 billion in awards this year. Many of these grants were terminated for no reason by the administration. One particularly egregious example was an award on improving the effectiveness of teaching students how to do computer science. Really? At a time when we need to increase our domestic AI and STEM-focused workforce, we need students to be familiar with the AI systems of tomorrow so they can contribute to our continued leadership in tech. Mr. Speaker, I keep looking for examples in history of this retreat from knowledge. There were England's Luddites in the early 19th century who fought the use of new textile technology. There was Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution, 1966 to 1976, when intellectuals and scientists were labeled the stinking old ninth and were sent to re-education camps in the countryside. For 75 years, the National Science Foundation has kept the U.S. at the forefront of science, has made us the envy of the world. The NSF can claim 268 Nobel Prize winners, and yet now we have a president and administration that is anti-science and anti-progress. NIH, NOAA, NASA, the CDC, EPA, and tragically, the National Science Foundation. Just as we have made investments in projects that are pivotal in artificial intelligence, quantum, and other leading areas, now is the time that we stop investing in our future. This is what the Trump administration is doing. I join my administration today to stand up for science, to oppose the administration's attacks on the National Science Foundation, and to fiercely champion our investment in science and knowledge for the generations to come. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
Well, thank you, Mr. Beyer, and for your great leadership always in the Congress and for your continued dedication to education as you are getting a degree in artificial intelligence. But we also have another very degreed member of Congress, Dr. Bill Foster, who I have been so proud to serve alongside for many years in this chamber and, of course, for many years on the Science Committee, where we've passed a lot of bills together. And with that, Dr. Foster.
Thank you. Thank you, Congresswoman Stevens and Congressman Subramanian, for organizing this such an important topic now. As Congress's sole PhD physicist, I spent 25 years of my life before coming to Congress working at Department of Energy Office of Science supported laboratory. We were smashing protons and antiprotons together to make particles that have not been around since the Big Bang. I'm proud to have been on the team that discovered the top quark, the heaviest known form of matter, where we worked with scientists from all over the world who came to America because we had the best equipment and the best experiment and the best scientists, and they wanted to collaborate. All of this is at risk. Amidst the Republican assault on science, I'm going to focus my remarks tonight mainly on the NSF. On May 10th, we celebrated the 75th anniversary of the National Science Foundation. Today, together with my fellow Representative Don Beyer, Jay Obernolte, Scott Franklin, Haley Stevens, we introduced a House resolution to celebrate that anniversary. The resolution highlights the importance of the NSF to our nation's research enterprise and the workforce it supports, totaling roughly 350,000 students, teachers, scientists, entrepreneurs, researchers, including 268 Nobel Prize winners to date. The NSF is a cornerstone of American innovation and foundational for continuing basic research discoveries. We hope this work continues for decades to come. Support for federal science agencies like the NSF have led to new and unexpected research directions that would not have been possible without federal funding. And that's why it's important that we recognize the role that NSF-funded basic research plays in the discoveries driving the next generation of scientists. This includes funding for AI, for cybersecurity, supercomputers, fusion energy, space, ocean exploration, black holes, semiconductors, and last but not least, the internet. In addition to basic research, the NSF also funds many educational programs supporting the next generation of scientists, perhaps in the fullness of time, its most crucial mission, because it enables the careers to move forward in science of these young people who have shared my fascination of science. Over the past 75 years, the NSF has stayed true to its mission to, quote, promote the progress of science, to advance the national health, prosperity, and welfare, and to secure the national defense. And underpinning this has been its commitment to a merit-based and peer-reviewed grant process that has ensured that good science is consistently prioritized and free from political interference. The NSF has had an exemplary 75 years, and I look forward to its progress in the next 75. So, how are Republicans celebrating this anniversary? By slashing the budget by a factor of 2 and muzzling the science. Unfortunately, the Trump administration has failed to see the importance of this federal investment in science for our country's future. The President's FY26 budget proposes cutting the NSF budget by 55%, including fundamental research, education, and broadening participation efforts. Other agencies have been impacted by the funding cuts. NIH by 37%. NOAA by 24%, the EPA by 54%, NASA's science arm by 46%, and the Department of Energy Office of Science by 14%, among many others. Long-term, these cuts will have detrimental impacts on scientific and technological innovation, cause irreparable damage to our global competitiveness. So this discussion could not come at a more important time. As a result of Trump's directives, all grant funding for the NSF is now halted, and existing grants are under review for termination. I led over 100 of my fellow members in a letter to the administration opposing this unconstitutional grant freeze, which is in direct opposition to Congress's appropriations. These measures come after canceling over 1,000 NSF active research grants last month, with another 344 more grants canceled recently in the third consecutive round of Friday terminations. Why Friday? Well, Friday traditionally is the place that you reveal actions that you're ashamed of. I wonder why they put it on Friday. In addition to freezing all grants at the NSF, the agency instituted a 15% cap on indirect cost rates for colleges and universities, where many of our future scientists receive training and participate in research experiences early in life that can spark their curiosity. Many of these grants across many agencies are impacting STEM education across the career pipeline. In addition to stopping research discoveries, these cuts will lead to the loss of STEM talent, which places the United States at a permanent competitive disadvantage. President Trump's budget also proposes eliminating NASA's Office of STEM Engagement, which will significantly deter young talent from participating in STEM programming and impair our nation's ability to lead scientific fields. In yet another Republican assault on STEM education, which seems to be a theme of their cuts, the U.S. Geological Survey, the federal hiring freeze led to the termination of a summer internship program for undergraduate students. The National Association of Geoscience Teachers, USGS, cooperative summer fellowship program had been running since 1965, matching undergraduate students with mentors and projects at the agency. Through this program, talented student interns benefit from working with well-established scientists and gain valuable research experience at a well-known science agency. This experience can spark their curiosity in science and may set them up for long-term research careers, assuming, of course, the budget is not slashed there as well. Altogether, since 1965, around 3,000 interns have contributed to the scientific projects and research areas of importance to the USGS and NAGT to promote high-quality Earth education. Programs like this allow students to contribute to our country's scientific achievements, energy resource development, and economic prosperity. But this year, 39 prominent young geoscientists will not have that opportunity. So what does this mean for the scientific workforce? Well, the recent departure of NSF Director Sethuraman Panchanathan, known to all of us as Dr. Panch, was, when he left the NSA, it was a really notable negative milestone for this administration's actions. It is a significant loss when we lose such dedicated and talented public servants who are leaving the federal government workforce not as happy campers. And everybody knows it. This follows workers like Dr. Peter Marks, one of the heroes of Operation Warp Speed and one of the lead scientists at the FDA. And there are hundreds of others, unfortunately, following their footsteps. To shed light on this issue, for example, this last March, together with my colleague Don Beyer, I led 37 House members in a letter to the Trump administration expressing our strong support for the agency and grave concerns for the firing of 168 workers at NSF. Unfortunately, the Doges and the Trump administration have ignored this sort of appeal completely. This letter highlighted the importance of NSF funding to our country's leadership in cancer research, in energy, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing. None of this work would be possible without program managers and experts who play central roles in granting funding decisions at the agency. A likely negative consequence of these actions to our country is that we will not only miss out scientific breakthroughs driving our country forward, but lose an entire generations of scientists who cannot complete their NSF-supported training and will abandon research careers altogether, or perhaps, as was mentioned, simply depart for countries abroad. So I want to assure NSF-funded researchers and staff that we're on your side and we're supporting you, and you should keep coming to Congress to tell us about the direct impacts, and that goes for scientists in all fields throughout this country. It's our duty to ensure that, regardless of the political climate, the science remains at the forefront of our nation's progress and innovation. So I urge my sensible colleagues on both sides of the aisle to support efforts to increase the resiliency of our federal science agencies in the face of these growing threats from the administration, and to continue supporting the U.S. research workforce. So, congratulations again to the NSF on celebrating 75 years, and we will continue to fight for the agency's viability and for our nation's competitiveness, and by supporting all of you and all of our federal science agencies. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you so much, Dr. Foster, as always, wise and important words. And with that, I'd also now like to pass the floor over to Mr. Whitesides, new member of Congress from California and a leader in the field of science and space exploration.
Thank you, Congresswoman. My name is George Whitesides, and I represent California's 27th Congressional District. Before I was a member of Congress, I served as the Chief of Staff of NASA and later as the CEO of an aerospace company that created hundreds of well-paid jobs in the Antelope Valley. I have a degree in remote sensing and GIS. I grew up in a science family. My dad is a chemist and a professor, and I've worked on new and innovative ways to tackle our wildfire crisis, a growing threat that the people I represent know all too well. I know from firsthand experience that the United States is home to the smartest, most hardworking, most impressive minds of our time who have dedicated their lives to helping families across the country fight deadly diseases, predict and prevent natural disasters before they hit, and mount a challenge against our foreign rivals like China. But we can't continue this important work without our scientific institutions. Recently, our biggest scientific agencies have come under a full-scale attack, with the administration's proposed budget effectively annihilating the very science that keeps us safe. Programs that previously had broad bipartisan support, such as an Army Corps of Engineers Water Infrastructure Fund, EPA's Drinking Water and Clean Water Funds for states, forestry operations, energy utility assistance for low-income households, science and technology programs, and agricultural support, are all on the chopping block. At NASA, satellites that allow us to understand weather patterns, monitor our changing climate, and track fires as they move and spread are at risk of being deorbited. Employees in my home district who work at NASA Armstrong and JPL have no idea what their futures hold. NOAA, an organization that helps families across the country prepare for natural disasters like hurricanes and tornadoes, is being gutted from the ground up. The NIH, which works on groundbreaking cures for diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's and heart disease, has supplied significantly fewer grants and awards to scientists than in previous administrations, effectively halting our work on critical medical advances. From February to April, the administration terminated nearly 700 grants across 24 NIH institutes and centers focused on subjects such as aging, cancer, child health, diabetes, mental health, and neurological disorders. We are not only losing the promise of progress and cures and climate technology, we are losing critical data that allow us to better understand the world we live in and respond to growing threats that we face, both foreign and domestic. That's why today I led my colleagues with similar scientific backgrounds to let the administration know exactly what will happen to our nation if they gut these science agencies. We sent a letter to the President drawing on our diverse backgrounds and constituencies to let him know exactly why science is a good investment for the future of our children and for our country. Make no mistake, we can always be better and more efficient, and these are ideals that we should all strive for. These are ideals that Americans fairly demand from their government, and we should all be working towards that challenge. When I helped lead NASA for President Obama, we constantly iterated and improved our existing systems because we knew how important it was to stretch the taxpayer dollar as far as it can go. But taking a sledgehammer and a chainsaw to entire institutions that allow us to stay safe and also remain competitive on the global scale is not only unwise, it's dangerous. The bottom line is that science is an incredible investment for jobs today and for the future of our country. So, I'm going to keep fighting for the families across my district who need NASA satellites to know if their houses are going to be safe from fires, for seniors who need medical advancements to live long and healthy lives, and for red states and blue states that will be hit by tornadoes and hurricanes in the months and years to come. I'm here to stand up for families in my district and across the country who will be less safe and more at risk as a result of these cuts. And I'm here as an innovator and entrepreneur to stand up for science. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Whitesides. How lucky the people are of California to have your representation, and how lucky are we in the United States Congress to have your expertise. And now another proven expert and leader and fighter and ranking member on the Science Committee, Congresswoman from North Carolina, Ms. Fouché.
Thank you to my esteemed colleagues for organizing this special order hour. And thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in solidarity with my colleagues to stand up and speak out against the proposed budget and demonization of science and the science community. America is where we are today because of what we create, whether it's manufacturing, innovation, scientific and medical research, or technology transfer. All these fields require science and the millions of researchers and innovators who push American STEM and our nation's workforce to the forefront. These efforts are critical to my district, which includes the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Duke University, North Carolina Central University, Durham and Wake Technical Community Colleges, and so many new up-and-coming industry leaders in STEM. However, in total, the Trump administration has canceled nearly $20 million in NSF research grants to North Carolina as a whole. Take, for instance, an NSF-funded grant that was recently canceled in my district, North Carolina's 4th, that was aimed at addressing the lack of diversity in the engineering doctoral workforce and promoting the retention of students from underrepresented groups. Recent doctoral engineering attrition rates revealed a disproportionately high loss of students from groups historically underrepresented in STEM, like women, minorities, and people from rural areas. Researchers in my district were working to help us address this critical gap, funded by NSF, now canceled under the guise of being so-called woke. Still, the majority continues to conflate the need to bolster manufacturing with the destruction of our scientific institutions. We need to make things here at home. But does America really win if China does all the innovation? I like the idea of an America that supports domestic manufacturing and is a leader in innovation, not an America that does China's manufacturing work. But right now, because of the senseless cuts to NSF, NIH, and scientific institutions across the board, we are instead taking steps toward losing a generation of innovators and helping China lead global STEM innovation, not us. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, Congresswoman Fushi, and for your ongoing leadership for women in the sciences and for HBCUs that are also so important to our STEM scientific research enterprise. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to pass the floor over to Congresswoman from New Mexico, the great Melanie Stansbury.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to our hosts tonight. Donald Trump's war on science is putting our country and our economy in peril, from haphazard firings of federal workers who work on nuclear security and keep our food and medicine safe, to firefighters and healthcare workers. I'm here to say enough is enough. As a proud woman in STEM and a bona fide science nerd, I cannot sit quietly as this administration jeopardizes the scientific advancement of this country. That is why I am here to say enough. Enough of the lies about Project 2025 and its anti-science agenda. Enough with the dismantling of the National Institutes of Health and the Centers for Disease Control and the National Science Foundation. Enough with canceling grants for medical research and STEM programs that ensure our country stays safe and globally competitive. Enough with peddling disinformation that jeopardizes the health and well-being of millions of Americans. And enough with hiring unqualified pundits, influencers, and political loyalists who peddle conspiracy theories and openly admit that no one should rely on them for advice. And you know who I mean. America is a leader in science and technology. We were the first in the world to send a man to the moon. We invented the polio vaccine and DNA sequencing. We invented the microchip, the internet, and GPS. Americans invented the airplane, the light bulb, television, and email, and we've fed the world with our innovations in food and agriculture. But over the last 3.5 months, we have seen an unprecedented attack on our nation's science and technology. Programs gutted, projects halted, and the world's leading scientists and engineers fired for no reason. A budget delivered to Congress just a couple of weeks ago by the president that would cut over $1 billion in science education and workforce programs, that would slash 30% of NOAA's budget and strip the Environmental Protection Agency of more than half of its funding. And that is why nearly 2,000 doctors, scientists, and researchers have called this administration a wholesale assault on United States science that threatens the country's health, national security, and economic development. But we are fighting back in Congress, in the courts, and in our communities, conducting oversight, voting no, showing up to agencies, supporting cases across the federal court system, and yes, getting loud in the streets. Because we stand with science, we stand with our scientists and our engineers and our innovators and our healthcare workers. We stand with our federal science and healthcare agencies. We stand with the people of this country who depend on that science and who depend on that innovation to keep us safe and fuel our economy, because that is all of us. So I say to my fellow leaders in STEM, stay strong, stay in the fight. We are fighting with you, and we will win. With that, I yield back.
And we thank science nerds and enthusiasts for their work, just as Ms. Stansberry so nicely laid out. And with that, I would like to yield the floor to another great warrior for scientific research and funding and support for the manufacturing economy of this country, a leader in the Congress, Mr. Paul Tonko from New York.
Thank you, Representative Stevens, for the kind introduction. Thank you, Representative Subramanian, for co-hosting this showcasing of supporters of science and tech in our economy and in the investments that we can make in our government. You know, no nation can maintain its leadership status in the world without an investment made and an attention paid to science, technology, engineering, and math. It is essential that we grow that population of scientists, of engineers, who can then provide for the muscle of our innovation economy, to allow for that intellectual capacity of this great nation and the pioneer spirit of this nation to continue to foster this growth of product delivery that speaks to the quality of life of people across this great world. We as a nation have been a leader. I think back to the humble beginnings of this nation. In the 1800s, there was a development of an Erie Canal in upstate New York that is still looked to as perhaps the first tech corridor. The eastern mouth of that Erie Canal is included in the geography that I serve in New York's 20th Congressional District in the Greater Capital Region. And along that canal, we not only provided for a great connection of a great ocean, the Atlantic, with the Great Lakes that inspired, Ms. Stevens, a westward movement into the midland of our country, into the nation, into the states that border the Great Lakes. And with that came the development of a necklace of communities dubbed mill towns that became the epicenters of invention and innovation that inspired all sort of product delivery and responses to the needs of this world and impacted favorably not only the quality of life in our United States, but in nations around the world. And that whole history, that powerful statement of what can be created when we invest in our manufacturing, in our technology, in our science community, is proof that we need to continue forward in that vein. Since January, Donald Trump and his political allies have launched a full-scale assault on America's scientific enterprise. Federal investments in science power nearly every aspect of our modern life. Medical breakthroughs, clean air and water, accurate weather forecasts, safe food, and real solutions to the climate crisis. But this administration, they've made their position painfully clear. They simply don't care. Instead, they are injecting partisan politics into research, censoring scientists, punishing experts, and pulling funding from projects that challenge their narrow ideology. They don't care about protecting communities from the climate disaster, and we're going to continue to write checks for disaster aid if we continue this ignoring of climate change. They don't care about preventing the next pandemic. We've learned that science became very much focused upon during the whole COVID crisis. And they don't care about making STEM more inclusive. And they certainly don't care if Americans suffer as a result. This isn't just wrong. It's a blatant attack on scientific integrity. Integrity in research is essential to scientific excellence and to maintaining the public's trust. That's why, as an engineer and lifelong advocate for science, I've made it one of my top priorities in Congress to right the ship of American science policy. As part of that effort, I am indeed proud to lead the Bipartisan Scientific Integrity Act. And tomorrow, we'll be launching the Scientific Integrity Task Force to continue our fight to protect science from political interference. Hands off science. Let that pure product of research get delivered to those decision makers, those policy makers, and let us determine what those findings mean in terms of the need for additional policy and research advocacy. Let us do it in the purest sense. My district, New York's 20th, has felt the effects of these attacks firsthand. Over $715 million in National Science Foundation grants have been terminated in New York's 20th Congressional District alone, including a $1 million award to the University of Albany's Project SAGES. Project SAGES was created to confront one of the deepest, most persistent inequities in science, and that is the underrepresentation of women, especially women of color, in faculty positions. This was peer-reviewed, data-driven, mission-critical science, and we need to make certain that we continue to build upon that. Cutting this program sends a clear message to a generation of researchers. You don't belong. And it doesn't stop there. Another canceled UAlbany NSF grant supported a collaborative study to improve public understanding of population science, especially around climate change, racial justice, and the rise of misinformation. The goal was to equip students and communities with tools to recognize and challenge the misuse of demographic data, data increasingly weaponized to justify political extremism and division. Does that sound familiar? You bet it does. And SUNY campuses, the state of University System of New York campuses across the state, lost almost $2.5 million in NSF support for programs helping students of color succeed in STEM, through research opportunities, mentorships, and academic support. These students are the future of a diverse and dynamic scientific workforce, and this administration slammed the door in their faces. Let's be clear. These cuts are not about efficiency. They are not about fiscal responsibility. They are rooted in racist, sexist, authoritarian ideology. I will not stay silent while extremists attack our scientists, our students, our universities, and our future. We are woefully underproducing scientists and engineers in our society. You can look at the growth of those communities in other nations, other continents. This country is woefully underproducing. We do not have the luxury of walking away from any one demographic of students out there based on gender, race, ethnicity, to meet our goals. We cannot skip over any of those populations. We must stand up. Stand up for science, stand up for equity, and stand up for the truth. And with that, Congresswoman, I yield back.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Tonko, and thank you so much for your years of leadership on the Scientific Integrity Act, still very essential legislation for this country. And what a profound honor it is to be with colleagues in this democracy, sharing these views. And with that, we are so pleased to be joined by Congressman from California, Mr. Takano.
Thank you to my colleagues, Ms. Stevens and Mr. Subramanian, for hosting this special order hour. Your leadership is much needed, and we appreciate you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today, or Madam Speaker, I rise today because something is deeply wrong. The Trump administration is gutting our nation's scientific infrastructure and doing it with purpose. This isn't some misunderstanding or clerical error. It's an attack on research, on truth, on the people who have dedicated their lives to making our country stronger, smarter, and healthier. Thousands of scientists have been laid off. Grants approved by Congress are being withheld. Whole labs are shutting down. And now the administration wants to slash funding for the NIH, the CDC, the Department of Energy's labs, and the university partnerships that have built the modern American economy. They call this reform. It's not reform. It's a dagger to the heart of American innovation. Let's be honest about what's going on here. Elon Musk and his so-called Department of Government Efficiency are using the federal government to settle scores. Cancer trials? Non-essential. Now, national science databases, too expensive. That's not policy, it's a crusade against expertise. Last month, I sat down with 5 undergraduate researchers at UC Riverside. They are doing remarkable work on everything from climate change to biomedical engineering. Their students are bright, their ideas are bold, and their funding is suddenly at risk, not because the science failed, but because politics did. And while the fire researchers in other countries are sending job offers, while we fire researchers, other countries are sending job offers. France, Germany, Canada, Australia, they're rolling out the red carpet for the scientists. We're pushing out the door. And while we make it harder for international students, researchers, and the greatest minds around the world to come and bring their talent, other countries are offering funding, housing, and guaranteed lab space. One institute called it a quote-unquote once-in-a-century brain gain opportunity, a once-in-a-century brain gain opportunity for other countries. This is what it looks like when a country values science, and meanwhile, we are bleeding talent. As ranking member of the House Veterans Affairs Committee, I need to speak plainly. Our veterans are being hurt too. In Pennsylvania, doctors at VA hospitals warned that life-saving cancer trials were being shut down. I was told by the secretary, just when I rushed from that hearing, that they really weren't being shut down. But there's a lot of questions around what the status of these trials are. More than 1,000 veterans at risk of losing access to treatments for head and neck cancer, kidney disease, and traumatic brain injuries. Some of these trials have not been restarted. In Pittsburgh, a study for veterans struggling with opioid addiction stalled out when a hiring freeze hit. In Los Angeles, all chemotherapy treatments almost stopped entirely before the VA reversed course. These are not just numbers, these are people. These are veterans. Veterans who stepped up for this country, now wondering why the country will not step up for them. We passed the PACT Act to expand care to those exposed to burn pits and other toxins. It was the largest expansion of veterans' care in generations, making good on a promise to help those who served our nation. Now it is being broken. And while all of this is happening, China is investing billions in biotech, AI, and clean energy. They are not just competing with us, they're outpacing us because they're not undermining their own scientists. While we fire, they fund. While we second-guess researchers, they fast-track them. We are not losing this race because we Americans are not capable. We are losing because we are allowing a government to sabotage them. Today, some of the National Science Foundation scientists who were fired may be watching from the gallery. Others, grad students, postdocs, public health experts, are tuning in from their labs and classrooms across the country. And to all of you, I want to say this. We see you, we value you, and we're not giving up on you. Because this is not about science. It is about who we are as a country. Do we invest in the people solving cancer, or do we dismiss them as expendable? Do we stand by our veterans mid-treatment, or do we tell them to wait until the budget looks better? Do we fight to stay at the forefront of discovery and innovation, or do we hand the future to someone else? Mr. Speaker, I represent a region full of young people who believe they can cure disease, fight climate change, and explore the stars. What message are we sending them right now? We should be investing in their future, not pulling the rug out from underneath them. I urge my colleagues, reject these cuts. Reject this anti-science, anti-veteran agenda. Let us fight for the truth, for our researchers, for our vets, and for the country we still have a chance to become. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you. And with about a minute left, we are going to have Mr. Subramanian, who is such a leader, and we're so proud of you for helping with this special hour close us out.
Thank you, Congresswoman Stevens. I'll keep it very short. A study a few weeks ago said that a 25% reduction in public support for science and research would correlate to a 3.8% drop in economic output. That's the same as the Great Recession. That's how bad it would be. And protecting science funding is not just about labs or some agencies. It's about preserving hope for families across the country, because these cuts are bad for our economy, for small businesses, for parents, children, teachers, patients, you name it. Our country cannot afford these massive cuts to science and innovation. We must reject these cuts and stand up for the health, safety, and prosperity of every American. I yield back.
And we will continue to use our voices, and yes, to every scientific researcher, science student, and American wondering, we have your back. We will use our voices, and we will not be silent in the face of these cuts. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and we yield back from this special order hour.